Hey y'all, what's up? we just had a funny little technical thing happening. What's up, y'all? It's your girl, Pastor Drew. Thank you for being tuned in and watching Living on Assignment TV live with your girl, Dr. Najuma. So glad to have you tuned in with us this Sunday evening. So very grateful to have all of my YouTube livers. Hey YouTube, all of my YouTube livers live with us. Please do us 3 favors: like, share, and subscribe. All to my YouTubers, please like, share, and subscribe. Now, normally you're used to seeing me with an interviewee. We have a pre-recorded show that we post up live on YouTube, and we make it a feature for the week. But once a month, I like to come live with you all, just have a conversation with you all. And so there's no interviewee tonight. I'm the host and I'm the guest. So we're in for a wonderful a treat tonight. So let's get into our show. But before we do that, I need to give a shout out to the sponsor of our show. We have a sponsor right now, so we want to give a shout out to Southern California Edison. Southern California Edison, their electronic vehicle, pre-owned electronic vehicle rebate program. So if you are in the market for a pre-owned electronic vehicle, they have a $1,000 to $4,000 rebate program. So we're going to have the link in the description below after the show. I'll drop the link in the description, but please go and check that out. If you are in the market, or if you're interested, or if you want to know more about it, Southern California Edison has a $1,000 to $4,000 rebate program for those who are interested in a pre-owned electronic vehicle. Now, if you're not aware, the electrification transportation is a major, I don't want to say trend because it's more than a trend, it's an actual thing that's happening, right? So even with Metro, for those that live in Los Angeles, even Metro, who takes care of our buses and rail, even they are increasing electrification. So there are these new buses, which are electrical buses. You may have seen some. They are increasing those number of electrification buses. And so our governor has put out a mandate to increase the number of electronic vehicles on the road. And so this is not something that's going to happen. This is happening. And Southern California Edison is putting money behind the efforts to make sure that all communities are able to take advantage of being part of the electrification community, because it's got to happen. And so for those of you interested in the $1,000 to $4,000 rebate program with Southern California Edison, we're going to put the link in the description below, but you can also Google it. Southern California Edison, their pre-owned, it's pre-owned, not new, but pre-owned vehicle pre-owned electric vehicle rebate program, and they're actually sending real checks in the mail. So please go and check that out. And again, we'll drop the link after the show in the description below. But let's get into our topic for tonight. And again, I'm also, in addition to being the host of this wonderful show, I'm also the proud pastor of Word of Encouragement Church. Whoop, whoop. And we are about to celebrate our 10-year church anniversary. Our 10-year church anniversary. That means in 2014, April 20th, 420, yeah, it was intentional. 2014, we launched Word of Encouragement Church. We are a church for all people. And so we are celebrating 10 years. So I also want to invite you to come and celebrate with us on April 20th. Now, in 2014, April 20th was Resurrection Sunday. This year, Resurrection Sunday comes almost a whole month earlier. So April 20th is just another Saturday. But we're going to have a wonderful brunch. So come and join us on April 20th for our brunch. Again, we're going to drop the link in the description below. So the link for the Edison and the link for our 10-year church anniversary will be in the description below. And we want you to come and join us. Why? Not only are we going to have good food and good entertainment and some good fellowship, but we're also going to be giving away scholarships. This is our celebration anniversary brunch and scholarship fundraiser. So every ticket that you purchase, every donation that you make will go to enhance our scholarships. Now, our intention is to do 4, but if you all supersede our expectations on giving, we can do way more than 4. So when we drop the link below after our show tonight, then we invite you to get a ticket and join us on April 20th for our 10-year church anniversary and fundraiser brunch for our scholarship awardees. All right. So let's get into our show. So listen, and again, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. And also, if you've never watched, if you're new to our Living on Assignment TV on Sunday nights, if you've never watched any past interviews, just scroll back, hit playlist on Living on Assignment TV, click on the playlist there on YouTube, and you can watch all the past shows. And actually, over the next couple of months, we'll be uploading a lot of other past shows that we have recorded, and so you'll get a chance to see some of our older shows. But just click playlist and run the playlist. Some great interviews, some great stories, and we think that you will enjoy them. But let's get into tonight. So, as you all know, well, maybe not know, but I'm going to assume most of you know or have heard about the latest conversation with our dear sister Risa Tisa, talking about who was this husband that she married, right? She uses the expletive, but I choose not to use the expletive. But she tells the story. And for those who are unfamiliar, this is a woman on TikTok, a young woman on TikTok who dropped a series or started her series on Valentine's Day about this husband that she married, who she ended up marrying, who turned out to be a pathological liar, con artist, and all these other things. And so I'm not here so much to talk about her particular story. I'm going to use her story as a backdrop to the conversation that I want to have tonight with all of you about how we turn red flags pink, about how we have sometimes the uncanny knack to turn red flags pink, how we can see a red flag and ignore it, how we can see red flags and just pretend like that's not there, or it doesn't matter, or it doesn't mean anything to us. This woman's story is very powerful, and if you've got time to hang out on TikTok for a day or two or for several hours, go watch her playlist on who was this husband that I married, right? And it's a great story. I'm not going to say it's interesting. It's interesting in the sense that, to see how, our minds work. And I do believe personally that this story, and again, no diss on the sister, it's just the truth. I believe that story is indicative and is really exemplifies a lot of what we see in our society, where oftentimes we're making these really interesting decisions when all along we had red flags to help us make different decisions, right? And all of us are prone to it. I know I've done, everybody's done it. We've all seen red flags, seen warning signs, and still made a decision that wasn't healthy. I mean, we could all raise our hand on how many times a mother or a father or someone that loves us said, I don't think you should go to that party. I see, this person, this thing, and they give us their warning and we go anyway. And then only to come back home and say, you were right, I shouldn't have gone, this, that, and the other. And so we have all done it, we all do it. And I think her storyline is an amazing teaching moment. It's an amazing teaching moment on avoiding, ignoring, not paying attention to, not taking seriously, not applying red flags as we see them, and our tendency and our humanity, because we want what we want who we want things to be the way we want them to be, our uncanny knack to turn red flags pink. But I want to invite you to make a promise. Put your right hand up and make a promise. I will not turn red flags pink. Make a promise to yourself. Promise not to me, but to yourself, that you will not in 2024 make red flags pink, that you will not turn them pink or yellow or blue or whatever your favorite color is. Mine happens to be pink. That we will see red flags for what they are, as red flags, and not make them out to be anything else but a red flag, and then act, respond, decide accordingly. All right. So again, this young woman breaks down 6 months of life with a gentleman who she married, who ends up being a pathological liar, a con artist, and probably some mental health challenges going on there, because when you're that deep in, there's something else going on with your mind. And she takes us on this journey and she admits out of her own mouth that she ignored many red flags. So let's talk about it, shall we? So again, we're just using her story as a backdrop to a deeper conversation around ignoring red flags. So let's talk about what are red flags, right? What are red flags? Red flags are warnings, right? Red flags are warnings. They're warning signs, symbols, and signals. A red flag could literally be something that someone says or does, but a red flag can also be the people in our lives who see things sometimes that we don't see, who hear things sometimes that we don't hear, who can perceive things sometimes that we don't perceive, and they say to us, I don't think you should do this, I don't think you should go there for this reason or for that reason. And oftentimes red flags feel inconvenient, because they tend to come up, they tend to expose themselves when we're trying to pursue, have, or engage something that we want or something that we like. And then boom, bam, smack, there's a red flag. But here's what I'm learning. I'm learning this, and I haven't perfected this, but I'm learning this, that red flags really are love. And what I mean by that is that when someone offers you a red flag, when you see a red flag, it really is the love of God, the love of the universe, the love sometimes of a person in your life who loves you too much to not let you see a red flag. And again, oftentimes we see red flags as inconvenient. But I want to invite you tonight to begin to see red flags as love, as a symbol of love. And whether you acknowledge God or not is irrelevant. Call it the universe, call it source, call it spirit, whatever you want to call it. I choose God. But whenever God has shown me a red flag, I am learning to understand that that is love. One of the things that we learn from the story of this young woman is that had she not avoided, ignored, tried to circumvent the red flags, her life would not have unfolded the way that it did. Doesn't mean that things would have been perfect, but it certainly means that the way things unfolded would not have unfolded had she paid attention to the first red flag, or at least the first 5 red flags. She still had the opportunity to get out of the situation, turn things around, turn herself around, and do something different. Why? Because red flags really are an act of love. When life, when source, when God, when spirit shows you and I a red flag in a situation. And again, we're not just talking about romantic relationships. A red flag can come up in a business deal. A red flag can come up just going out and deciding, oh, I'm going to go hang out with some friends. And then a red flag comes out. A red flag can come up with your friend groups, whether it's your male friends or your female friends, and somebody says something or somebody does something. So red flags are not just relegated to romantic relationships. Now, we tend to only apply them or only focus on them when we are talking about a romantic relationship. But a red flag really can come up in any kind of situation. And so I don't want you to think, well, this is not a romantic situation, so it doesn't apply. Again, red flags can come up in business. Red flags can come up in relationships. Red flags can come up in families, family members connecting with family. Red flags can come up in our friend groups, and definitely red flags can come up in our intimate relationships. And again, red flags are love. It is God. It is source. It is spirit. It is, life's energy. It is your family members and your friends, right, who are waving the red flags. It is love. And why do we say love? Because the red flag gives us opportunity to do something very important. Red flags give us an opportunity to do something really important, and that is this: make a different decision. Now, we all have said this statement at some point in our lives: if I knew then what I know now. Hindsight. That's why they say hindsight is 20/20, because if I knew then what I know now, I would have made a different decision, or gone a different direction, or engaged a different system, or engaged a different opportunity, right? If I knew then what I know now. And yes, hindsight is 20/20, but we should not strive for just hindsight. Let's strive for it, and write this down: foresight. Why? Because hindsight means I have to go through something to see clearly. Foresight means I see clearly in advance of going through something. And this is why red flags are love, because the red flag allows me and gives you and I foresight, not just hindsight. Hindsight means I have to go through some suffering. Hindsight means I got to go through some trouble first. Hindsight means I got to take some losses to understand that if I just made a different decision, gone in a different direction, I wouldn't have lost so much. And hindsight has its value. Many of us are thriving in life because hindsight, after the fact, gave us wisdom, gave us information, gave us data, gave us clarity, and now we're making different decisions. But what did hindsight cost you? What did you have to go through to get that hindsight? How much money was spent? How much time was given away? How much energy was lost in gaining hindsight? Because again, hindsight comes in after the fact. Our dear sister telling this 52 video story is hindsight knowledge, hindsight wisdom, hindsight. Right, yes. Hindsight wisdom, hindsight information, hindsight knowledge. Absolutely, yes. It's all hindsight. And again, it has its place in life. But what if we took red flags seriously and decided, I want to get foresight. I want to see things before they happen. I want to make a different decision before things happen. I want to go a different direction before the drama and the trouble and the issues. And again, hindsight has its play in life. Again, many of us are thriving because at some point we gained hindsight. We went through that and now we know never to do it again. We experienced this and now we know never to go that way again. But hindsight is very expensive. Hindsight is going to cost some money out your behind. Hindsight is very, very expensive. Mind, body, soul, money, you name it. Hindsight costs more than most of us are willing to spend. But we can gain foresight. And again, foresight is seeing the things before they happen. That's what red flags give us. So not only are red flags love, whether you call that from God, source, life energy, the creator, God. I choose God. And I believe that when God allows me to see red flags, that is God's love. It is God's way of offering me an opportunity to make a different decision and to protect and save myself. And so however you call that, we know that red flags are love. They may be inconvenient, but they're love. They may cause us to have to make decisions we don't want to make, but it's love, right? At the end of the day, it's love, because love does what? Love cares. Love protects. Love covers. And that's what red flags offer us. Covering, protection, warnings, right? And so, but also red flags also offer us foresight. Red flags offer us foresight. Yeah, we gonna have hindsight every now and then in life, but what about paying attention to red flags so we can have foresight? That means being able to see the train wreck coming. That's what red flags do. Red flags are an opportunity for you and I to see the train wreck coming before the train wreck happens. It allows you and I to see the train coming so that we can actually avoid a train wreck. It allows us to see the speeding car coming so we can get out the way. It allows us to see the drama and the foolishness and the potential of crazy so we can make a different decision, right? That's foresight. And I want to offer that in 2024, let's seek foresight, because hindsight costs too much, but foresight. And so red flags are love. Red flags also give us foresight to see things before they happen. Because listen, in really extreme, let's take a real extreme example, right? If someone says to you, right, I have a problem stealing. Okay, well, that's a red flag. And you're gonna know, like, let me not leave my wallet or my purse from them, because they've already said they have a problem with stealing, right? So that's operating in foresight. You don't want your wallet or your purse or your money to be stolen. And they've expressed out their own mouths in some way that they have a problem with picking up things that don't belong to them. They got a 5-finger discount issue, or they klepto, or they just like taking stuff that don't belong to them, right? So that information, that knowledge, that red flag being waved right in front of your face is going to hopefully, God, I hope, make you make a different decision, right? You're not going to leave your wallet around them, your purse. You're certainly not going to leave your money around them. That's operating foresight. That's exactly what red flags do for you and I. It allows us to see the potential for drama, the potential for a problem, the potential for destruction, the potential for loss, the potential for an issue, and to make a different decision. Foresight, check this out, costs way less than hindsight. Foresight costs way less than hindsight. And at some point, we've got to get to a place where we want foresight and not just waiting on hindsight. Our dear sister has a whole video playlist detailing how much hindsight cost her. Yeah, she knows now. Yeah, she understands now. And she says over and over again in her videos, there were a lot of red flags that she didn't pay attention to. Those are not my words. Those are her words that I ignored. Her exact words were, there were many red flags. And if you saw many red flags and you didn't make many different choices, different decisions, then yeah. And so we can learn. And again, I think her story is beautiful, because not only is it a teaching opportunity for her, but all over the world, the millions of people that have tuned in to watch the videos, this is an amazing teaching moment. We are in an amazing teaching moment about ignoring red flags, about hooking up with people who are displaying for us red flags, about not following our intuition and our gut. As a believer, I use the word discernment. You may not use that word, and that's fine. But I use the word discernment because discernment, like intuition, gives me what? Foresight. And we are at an amazing teaching moment with the millions of views. What are we doing with the red flags that are being presented? So, because again, red flags are love, and red flags are an opportunity for us to have foresight. And again, we also said red flags give us an opportunity to pause and make a different decision. So I want to ask the question. I want to ask you a question. What are some of the different decisions that you would have made had you paid attention to some of the red flags in the past? What are some of those different decisions you would have? Maybe you would have went to school. I don't know. Maybe you would have went ahead and broke up with them the first time and let it be. Maybe you would have never got with them in the first place. Maybe you wouldn't have had no children with them. Maybe you would have not ever gotten in the car. Maybe you wouldn't have ditched high school class. I don't know. There's an array of choices that we would have done differently had we paid attention to the red flags. And here's the thing, and that's what I want to offer and share with you all tonight. Decision making is a skill that we stopped teaching. Now, when I was and I'm a little older than some of y'all, when I was in high school, things like decision making, how to make sound decisions, was actually part of our classes. Like, it was when in our economics class, decision making was like effective decision making. That's what it was called, right? That was actually a class. A lot of times we don't teach people how to do effective decision making. People just make decisions, but there really is a skill to making effective, right, well decisions, right? And so again, part of that is paying attention to the signs, symbols around us, the red flags. Now, if the flag is green, of course, that means go. But what does a red flag mean? It means stop. It means pause. It means don't go no further. It means don't go forward. Don't go ahead with this. And so the red flag gives us an opportunity to stop, not slow down. That's a yellow flag. Yellow means slow down. If you pay attention to car races, when it's time to finish up, they wave a yellow flag. But yellow means slow down, but red means stop. Like, so think about how many times you needed to just stop and say, wait a minute, let me go in a different direction. Now, if somebody's in the middle of the street and they're waving a red flag and they're waving red flags and they're trying to tell you to stop, it would not be wise to keep going, because what that means is something up ahead is going to be a problem. Now, most of us in our right mind would stop because we don't want to get into car accidents. We don't want to get into a crash. We don't want to tear our cars up. We certainly don't want to be injured. That's how we have to see red flags in situations. And hey, to all those that are watching live on YouTube, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. So again, back to our analogy. If we had people in the ministry waving red flags, most of us would stop and say, what's going on ahead? Because we don't want to get into a car crash. We don't want to be injured. We don't want to end up in the hospital. We certainly don't want to tear up our nice new ride that we just got washed. I know I don't, right? So that's how red flags operate in relationships, in business deals, in friendships. When we see a red flag, it is not slow down. It's a full stop. And that's hard. That's hard. It's easier said than done. I get it. Don't at me. I'm just saying, red flag means stop. It means to stop and say, what do I need to know? What do I need to pay attention to? What do I need to see? And then what decision do I need to make differently? Typically, red flags mean go in a different direction, whether that's back, to the right, or to the left. But a red flag never, ever means go forward. It might mean take a cut right. It might mean make a cut left. It might mean make a whole entire U-turn and go back where you came from. But undoubtedly, a red flag never means keep going in this direction. It never means that. It never means that. It never means keep going forward. It always means stop. And stop for the purpose of going in a different direction. And so when we see red flags, when we are presented with red flags, when red flags reveal themselves, and sometimes, listen, y'all, sometimes people will wave their own red flag. They'll let you know they're a problem. And we just don't like to believe what people say out their own mouth about themselves, right? Sometimes we like, well, I know they said this, but if they said it, they meant it. People, you got to believe what people say about themselves, right? The great Maya Angelou told us that when a person tells you who they are, believe them. Believe them. Why? What is it about our humanity that doesn't like to accept red flags? And we're going to get into that in just a minute, because I have an answer for that. So we're going to get into that. So red flags are love, can be love. Red flags are inconvenient, but they are in our best interest. Red flags are an opportunity to go in a different direction. Red flags are for the purpose of for us to stop not going forward. It means stop. It actually means stop. It doesn't mean keep going. It doesn't even mean keep going to investigate. That's not what it means. It means stop and go in a different direction. And red flags are never any other color but red flags. So quit trying to make them pink. Quit trying to make them yellow, green, blue. They're red. And we got to just own that, accept that, and deal with that. But red flags really are for our safety, our protection. And when we ignore red flags, we often will gain hindsight. But red flags, this is the thing I want you to learn tonight. Red flags are for an opportunity for foresight, to see ahead. We're going to have hindsight. If we ignore red flags, you will gain hindsight. That's that old, if I knew then what I know now scenario. But when we pay attention to red flags, when we take them for what they are, right? And that's business deals, friendships, relationships, situations, outings. Red flags can be applied anywhere, right? In the story of our dear sister on TikTok, she's talking about an intimate relationship and a partner. But a red flag can show up anywhere, anytime, in any situation, right? But red flags offer us foresight. You want to be wise in 2024? Pay attention to red flags and pay attention to foresight. That's seeing ahead, not from behind. Hindsight costs way more than foresight. Hindsight costs way more than foresight. Okay, so I said we were going to talk a little bit about why do we ignore red flags? Why do we ignore red flags? Okay, so let's talk about it. Let's shift gears a little bit and let's take a deep breath. And let's talk a little bit about what is the thing with us and our humanity that will see a red flag and still be like, I'm going to date the red flag. I'm going to sleep with the red flag. I'm going to eat with the red flag. I'm going to even marry the red flag, right? And you see it's a red flag. But what is it about us? Okay, so there's a few things that I've been reading up on this, and then just from having pastored and parented, I got a few reasons I'm gonna offer too. But number one, oftentimes we ignore red flags because of how we feel about ourselves. I know y'all wasn't expecting that one, but hear me out. When we are not fully in love with ourselves, and I'm not saying be full of yourself, I'm saying like you love yourself. Like, I care about me, I care about my well-being, I care about my mental state, my emotional state, I care about my physical state, I care about my money, I care about the safety of my environment, I care about my home, I care about where I live, I care about me, right? When we don't love ourselves, we will often make decisions that lead to harm. When you don't love yourself. So the number one reason why we and our humanity, this is just human nature, right? Our humanity, I'm not going to say human nature because it's not human nature not to love yourself. But part of our humanity, part of our frailty and our humanity, when we don't love ourselves, we make bad decisions. It's just a fact. You don't have to at me or argue with me about it or read about it, right? When we're not living our lives from a place of self-love, meaning, I'm not talking about self-centered. That's different. I'm not talking about being self-absorbed. That's different. We're talking about I love me. I love me. I care about me. I care about my well-being. I care about how my mind and my emotions are going to be managed. I care about respect. I care about my dignity. When we don't love ourselves like that, we open ourselves up subconsciously most times, because most people would never say out loud, I don't love myself. These are subconscious things that are operating, right? So when we don't love ourselves, we will typically ignore red flags because we don't love ourselves enough to say, I don't want to have a train wreck. I don't want to have a car wreck. I don't want to run into a brick wall. I don't want to get my feelings hurt. It's only after, what's our hindsight, right? Only after gaining hindsight do we learn that certain things hurt, right? And so when we don't love ourselves, and here, this is important because so many people, maybe not you that's watching live tonight, but maybe somebody's going to watch the replay. Maybe somebody you know, and when I said it, you thought of somebody. If you didn't think about yourself, you thought about something like, yeah, I can see how that could happen. I don't think he or she loves himself, right? Because when we love ourselves, we don't open ourselves up for an intentional train wreck. Now, some train wrecks happen and we have no control over. Some plane crashes, some car crashes, some wrecks in life. And I'm using those words metaphorically. But some life wrecks happen and we have absolutely no control over. Somebody runs a red light or whatever. Life just hits us blindsided and it happens. But then there are times in life where God, source, energy, the universe, creator, whatever you want to call it, gives us these beautiful red flags and warning sign saying stop, go the other direction. And when we don't love ourselves fully, wholly, and completely, we will turn red flags pink, or we'll know it's a red flag and say, I'm gonna go for it anyway. Because when you love yourself, who loves himself and says, I'm gonna take a risk on getting hurt. I'm gonna just roll this dice and just hope I don't get that hurt. I don't get hurt that much. People who love themselves don't do that. And so the number one reason why in our humanity we ignore red flags is because more times than not, there's something about us not loving ourselves wholly and completely. So what does that mean? One of the things that we have to work on when it comes to not ignoring red flags is making sure that we love ourselves. Do you love yourself today? I hope you love yourself. I hope you care about your well-being, your mind, body, soul, spirit, your money, your house, your environment, etc. Hope you love yourself enough to not ignore red flags. Not ignoring red flags for what they are is a radical act of self-love. Not ignoring red flags when they present themselves is a radical act of self-love. When I see a red flag and I don't ignore it and I make a different decision, that is a radical act of self-love, right? And it's radical because most people, or a lot of people, won't do it. Most people will roll the dice on a red flag and just pray they don't totally end up destroyed. Most people are rolling the dice on red flags and just hoping, I just hope it doesn't kill me. I'm just hoping it does. I remember, let me tell you a story. I remember this was me as an adult ignoring a red flag. So I was in Atlanta seeing a guy that I was dating, and he at the time rode motorcycles, and I was so excited about the motorcycle and riding on the back of the motorcycle. Listen, all I had on was a helmet. I'm in some little short booty shorts, and so this was years ago before I started having children, of course. I'm in some little booty shorts with a t-shirt on one of those, what are the Kawasaki bikes, the fast ones, with just a helmet on, right? At any given second, my life could have been over or seriously injured because I had no protective gear on, right? But here was the red flag. The red flag wasn't the motorcycle. The red flag wasn't the speed. The red flag wasn't the helmet. You know what the red flag was? When I got on the motorcycle and I said, so do you ride people often? He said, no, you're the first one. That was the red flag. And that was the red flag when he said to me, no, you're the first one. That was the red flag. So he had no knowledge whether he could do this, and I had no reference. He had no reference, I had no reference, but I was so excited, and I so wanted to get on the back of the motorcycle with my little booty shorts on and a t-shirt in hot Atlanta with just a helmet on. Now, at least I had the sense enough to put a helmet on, right? But here was the red flag when he said, no, you're the first one. I should have got off the motorcycle, but I didn't. You know what I did? I got on the back of that motorcycle and I rolled the dice and gambled on my life for the next 2 hours, praying and hoping we didn't get hit by a car, we didn't have an accident, nothing went wrong. As we're swooping around corners and all this kind of stuff going upwards of 100 miles an hour, all I had on was booty shorts, a t-shirt, and a helmet, riding on the back of somebody's motorcycle who told me before we got on the motorcycle he had never rode anybody on the back of his bike. That was a major red flag. But that's what we do, right? We roll dice for our whole entire life. Now, would I ever do that again? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. First of all, I was scared out of my bejeebas when that thing started going. But I couldn't listen. I didn't have sense enough to say, pull over, let me off. It's too fast. No, I just held on tight. Kept praying, Lord, please, God, please. just gambling the whole 2 hours, just gambling my whole entire life, just gambling. But this is actually how we approach life. This is actually how we approach life a lot of times, when we just walk right into a red flag. Just be like, oh, it's a red flag, and I'm going to just hang out with it. We just literally are playing rolling dice with our lives. And so had there been, and I thank you, God, that there was no accident. But even getting off of the motorcycle, I gained hindsight, right? That I don't ever want to get on a motorcycle again without proper gear, proper covering, and with someone who knows how to ride someone on the back of the bike. So that was hindsight, but that cost me 2 hours worth of stress, 2 hours worth of anxiety and fear. My blood pressure probably went off the charts, right? I'm just grateful it didn't cost me my life or any major injury. But this is how we approach life, right? But a real radical act of self-love would have been when he said, no, you be the first, was to say, oh, no, I'm going to walk. I'm going to walk her. I'll wait here. You go ride your bike, and I'll just wait here on the corner. Go ride your bike. I'll wait here in my booty shorts and a t-shirt, and I'll hold the helmet, right? And so we've all done it. But I want to encourage that this story about this young lady on TikTok, she says it out of her own mouth. There were many red flags. Let's shoot for foresight, not hindsight, right? And again, at that time of my life, I wasn't that I didn't love myself. I love myself, but I didn't understand my own value, my own self-worth, to say, no, I don't want to injure myself. No, I don't want to hurt myself. No, I don't want to set myself up to get injured or hurt in this way. So let me ride with someone who actually knows how to ride people on the back of their bike. I'm not saying don't get on the bike. I'm just saying I should have rode with someone who knows how to ride people on the back of their bike as opposed to risking it all, rolling dice and praying that he doesn't have an accident or some kind of crash or whatever, because things can happen on bikes. Those that ride bikes, you know that, right? And he was a fairly safe rider, but he didn't know how to ride nobody on the back of his bike, and that should have been my red flag when he said something. Not when the bike tipped over, not when things got wibbly wobbly, but when he said, no, you're the first. That was a major red flag. But that's how a lot of times we approach life. And had I been more in tune with caring about me, but I didn't know that until I got on the bike and I realized how fast we were going, and I saw that speedometer going up to 100 miles an hour. I'm like, oh my Lord Jesus. if one wrong move and it's a wrap, right? If you ever rode a motorcycle, you know one wrong move and it's a wrap. And so hindsight, I gained hindsight that day that I'll never do that again. But actually, the red flag gave me foresight when he said, I know you're the first person I've rode on the back of my bike. Foresight. That red flag was giving me foresight. Don't take that chance. Right? And so this is how we approach life. But it always goes back to, ultimately, how much do I love myself? How do I care about myself? The second thing about why do we ignore red flags. Y'all ready for this one? Here's the second one. Hey, again, hi to all my YouTubers. We're talking tonight about ignoring red flags, if you haven't figured it out. So thank you, all of our live YouTubers. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. So the second reason we tend to ignore red flags, y'all ready for this one? It's called FOMO, fear of missing out. FOMO, FOMO. We don't want to miss out. We don't want to miss out on what is perceived to be our turn. And that was one thing our dear sister said. She said, I thought it was my turn. She didn't want to miss what she thought was her turn to have this fairy tale life, right? She didn't want to miss out on a turn of having this fairy tale love affair or love life or love story, right? It's the fear of missing out. We don't want to miss out. We do things. We avoid red flags. We pay for stuff we can't afford, really. We go places we shouldn't because we just don't want to miss out. And the world that we live in promotes that. It promotes it in ads. It promotes it in life. Like, if you don't take this chance, you're going to miss out. And so many times the reason we avoid red flags is because we don't want to miss out. There's something about what's being presented and we don't want to miss out, whether that's perceived or real, right? Sometimes it's a perceived thing, like you think you're going to miss out on something, so you don't want to take the chance of missing out on something. So I'm going to avoid the red flag. Or maybe there is something you're going to miss out on, but I don't want to miss out on that, so I'm gonna take the chance of the red flag. But here's the thing. It's worth it to miss out if it's gonna cost you the red flag anxiety. The red flag cost is way more than what you might miss out on. Because here's what I'm learning, and this is just a life lesson, that nothing that's meant for me will I miss out on. Nothing in life that is meant for you or meant for me will we miss out on. It's all perceived. It's all made up. Because whatever is for me, I'm not going to miss out on it. And so the fear of missing out is just a fear. It's all perception and it's not real. But life has done such a head job on us that a lot of times we will ignore a red flag because we think we're going to miss out on something. We feel we're going to miss out on something. We don't want to miss out on something. But here's the reality of life. Anything meant for you, whether it's a relationship, a job, an opportunity, anything meant for you and I, we actually won't miss out on it. You actually won't miss out on anything that actually is meant for you to see, meant for you to experience, meant for you to have, meant for you to possess, meant for you to engage in. You won't miss out on it. That's the cycle of life. That's how life works. But because this thing, FOMO, fear of missing out, is such a part of our culture and our society, we tend to avoid paying attention to red flags, right? And here's a third reason why we also avoid or we ignore red flags. Discipline. I know y'all don't like that word, discipline, because it requires a certain level of discipline to see a red flag and to stop and to go in a different direction. It requires a certain level of discipline. And none of us, nobody well, you learn as life goes on to welcome discipline. But most of us don't like discipline when it's presented. But it requires a certain level of discipline to see a red flag, to stop, and to go in a different direction or make a different decision. It requires a certain level of discipline with our appetites. And what I mean by appetites, I'm not talking about what you like to eat. I'm talking about like our nature, right? It requires a certain level of discipline with our thinking. It requires a certain level of discipline with, our deep desires, right? Sometimes we're not disciplined in our thinking, disciplined in what we want, disciplined in what we want to do. We just want what we want, right? And that's how children behave. I want what I want, so I'm going to run out in the street even though there are cars coming and grab the ball because I want to get the ball. That's how children behave, undisciplined. That's why they require parents to teach them discipline. That's a fact of life, right? Because we don't just come out the womb knowing discipline. Life has to teach us discipline. Parents teach us, people that love us teach us discipline. Why? Because discipline is love. And red flags, what did we say? Is love. So I'm ending where I started. That the part of why we don't like to pay attention to red flags is because that requires a certain level of discipline. And red flags, like discipline, is a form of love. People that love us discipline. They offer us discipline. When we love ourselves, we discipline ourselves, right? And again, whether you call it God, source energy, creator, all the different things, I choose God, right? Discipline is love. And so when we see a red flag and ignore it, a lot of times it's because we're just not disciplined, or we reject the discipline of having to stop and make a different decision, of having to stop our minds, stop our flesh, stop our appetites, and say, no, make a different decision. Many people that have no discipline, zero discipline. And it's not a judgment. It's just an opportunity for growth, right? And it's something that we learn. It's learned behavior. Discipline is something that we learn. We don't just wake up knowing discipline, which is why children require parents. Because if children didn't have parents, they would literally walk out in the street like sheep. Sheep just walk out into danger. That's why sheep require shepherds, because sheep are the dumbest animals on earth in the sense of they don't have no sense of danger. They don't have a sense, and this is just a fact, read up on about sheep. They don't have a real sense of danger, so they'll walk right into danger, which is why sheep require shepherds, why children require parents or an adult to teach discipline, because discipline is love, and red flags, like discipline, is love. And oftentimes in our humanity, we ignore red flags because we don't have discipline, or we don't want the discipline that comes with paying attention to a red flag, because that requires us to stop and make a different decision, right? So listen, y'all, thank you. So again, this, whether you spend the next 5 hours or 10 hours, whatever it is, the number of videos on the story with our dear sister Risa Tisa on how the heck did I marry this gentleman or this man or my husband, who the heck is my husband, I think it's called. Risa Tisa is the young lady. Again, no judgment on her. She is a reflection of our society. Her story is a reflection of our society. And while she's learned a lot of major lessons, I believe her story is one of those key stories that every now and then social media gives us access to in a viral way that we can all learn from. And the big lesson is not to avoid red flags. Don't ignore them. Don't avoid them. Don't pretend that they're not there. And certainly don't change red flags pink. They're red. They're not pink. They're not green. They're not yellow. They're red. And out of her own mouth, she says in her very first video, there were so many red flags. So we can learn from her story not to ignore red flags. All right. So thank you for allowing me to share tonight. Thank you for going with me on this journey about why we tend to ignore red flags, but what the red flags really do for us, right? So stay tuned for the next 8 weeks. We're going to be re-airing some of our great shows for the last 5 years or so. So stay tuned every Sunday night. Catch up on some of our old shows, and then we'll be back May. Is it March, April? May, with some exciting new shows. But for the next 2 months, we're going to be re-airing some of our best of Living on Assignment, if you will, best of Living on Assignment. For join us for that journey. So glad to offer tonight's show with you all. You can chew on this for the next 2 months and really grow in how you also navigate the red flags that may come up in life for yourself. All right. So thank you. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for the best of the next couple of months, the best of Living on Assignment Radio. And we'll see you all back here live May 2024. We out, y'all. Peace.